So without further ado, let's extend a warm welcome to our next speaker, Giridhar Rajkumar. Welcome, Giridhar. How's it going today?
Thanks, I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. Fantastic, actually. So, Giridhar, tell us, how do you feel about being the very first speaker of the second day of our event?
Well, very excited, in fact, especially being in this particular forum. It really gives me an immense pleasure to share the topic that I'm just going to talk about today. So it's my personal experience that I've encountered as part of the QAOps, and I just so delighted to express those kind of experiences to this particular forum and help their QA operations to enrich actually.
Uh-huh. So, Giridhar, any promises you want to make?
If you have any questions, I'm there in LinkedIn. You can contact me anytime. I'm happy to help you out. So yeah, that's the kind of a promise that I can make now. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So anyone watching this, we will link up to Giridhar's LinkedIn profile. You can just type in his name, just DM him with any questions that you have. And Giridhar, we are thrilled to have you with us today. But before we dive into your session, it's just a couple of questions. I wanted you to share with us some interesting facts about your journey in the QA field, the things that shaped the approach that led you to master the QA testing as a consultant and as an architect and in project management as well.
Oh, that's an interesting question. So I've been practicing testing, software testing since 2009, which is almost 14 years now. Have been predominantly working with most of the test automation technologies. So my specialization is with test automation, irrespective of what type of test automation, be it whether it is API, contract, UI, mobile, whatever it is. So test automation is my primary skill, which I'm just trying to practice for over 14 years now. And the main thing what I learned as part of my journey is, at least from my testing career, is QAs should always be a team that helps in delivering the product much faster and in a qualitative way as well, actually. So that's something that I have learned over my experiences with different customers and in different teams that I've worked on. Because many teams I've worked on have very less knowledge about quality assurance, where we just tried learning a lot on our experience. And then we tried implementing it actually. So that's one of the key entity that we should also keep in mind, that learn from your experience actually. So that's one of the key aspect that I think, and I always believe that experiment and innovate. That's what we learn, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about innovative steps that we have done as part of the speak, as part of the talk as well. And then and of course that's a kind of a journey that I'm into, explore and innovate. So that's a kind of a motto that I have.
Yeah, I always believe that this is the very best thing about knowledge. I mean, experience to shorten your path to knowledge, if we rephrase it. So,
Exactly.
Giridhar, let me do the introduction in here. So, Giridhar is a senior QA engineer with a wealth of experience in test automation, consultancy, architecture, and management. Your expertise has been instrumental in shaping the QA landscape, and today you are here to share your insights with us. Your session is going to be titled QA in the Age of DevOps, Harnessing the Power of QAOps. And in this session, I believe we're going to delve deeper into the transformative power of QAOps in the DevOps environment. I believe you will guide us through the challenges and opportunities that QA professionals face in this new age, and how to harness the power of QAOps to navigate this landscape successfully. Yeah, and you correct me if, yeah, for sure. And we will get back with more questions after your session. Right now, the stage is yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Hamza.
Thank you. Yeah, okay.
Let me just quickly share my screen. Please do let me know once you're able to see it.
Okay. Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, I'll just make it as a slideshow. Perfect. Are you guys able to see the bigger screen now?
Yes, we are capable of seeing the big screen. Yes.
Perfect. All right, guys. Okay, cool. All right. So let's, first of all, thank you so much, Hamza, for introducing me to the team and to the forum actually. So having said that, like what exactly Hamza said, I'm going to talk about the QA ops. That is the on the topic of QA in the age of DevOps, which is a kind of a new evolutionary concept that has been coming across in the industry, and many organizations have started adapting this culture of QA ops as well. And in this particular talk, I'm just going to talk about how.
Giridhar, sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, sorry to interrupt
problem.
you. So,
Yeah,
I received a request from one of our participants today. So, if it's possible, if you could share it on the full screen for better exposure.
Okay.
For us to be able to see it.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm doing it right away. Sorry, I thought it's in a bigger screen. Yeah, I think I'll just share the entire desktop, so you should be able to see it fully.
This slideshow thing, yeah.
Yeah, could you please confirm whether you're able to see it fully? Perfect.
Yeah,
all right,
sure.
guys.
We can see it right now. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, folks. So for next couple of minutes, probably 20 to 30 minutes, this is what we are going to see actually. I thought I'll just have a about me slide, but looks like Hamza has given enough introduction about me, so I'm just going to skip that and directly get into today's topic called QA Ops. We are going to see what is QA Ops, what is the traditional model that QA teams function as part of today's world, and how QA Ops can be adapted by the entire engineering team, and how we can deliver the products much faster and in a more quality way as well. Actually, also we are going to discuss in depth about the 3 stages of QA ops that a team should adapt in order to make sure that the delivery goes more smoothly actually, right? So these are the 2 main topics that we are going to talk for next 20 to 30 minutes. And if you have any questions, please scribble it down, or you can just put it in the comment box. Probably after the session, I will be able to help you out with those answers actually. Please keep in mind this particular session is completely theory-based in the sense like it's all process-oriented. We are going to talk process in different levels on how we can adapt this QA ops culture, and then how we can just extract the fruit actually out of it. So let's get into the main thing. So in case if you would like to follow me, this is my GitHub repo, and this is my website, and you can always browse my website to go through a couple of articles that I have written with respect to testing actually. All right, okay, let's talk about QA ops actually. Let's start with our traditional process, right? So be it whether it is an organization who's following a waterfall model or agile model, right? The traditional QA process is like this actually. So literally what we do is we have a separate individual and isolated testers, right? So we have a team of testers who will be testing the stories, or who will be testing the requirements based on the SDLC model that we have adapted actually, right? So literally speaking, in any of this particular model like agile, so let me talk from the agile perspective. The main problem or the main bottleneck is last minute testing actually. Let's be very fair here. The problem here what we face in many organizations is the developer will be able to develop the story or the particular task and give it to the testing in the last minute, probably on the 10th day of that particular sprint actually, right? So literally the tester will not have a time to test the entire functionality of that particular story, isn't it? So that gives a bottleneck for the entire team to deliver the product actually. So literally there comes the blame on QA, saying that QA is having QA is a bottleneck and we are not able to deliver it on time actually. So that's a kind of a typical industry thing that happens actually, right? So we need to make sure that these kind of bottlenecks are not happening in our team actually, right? So also what happens in our traditional process of QA, there is a pace of delivery that gets decreased actually, in the sense last minute testing, right? So we will not be able to test it properly. And even if we are not able to test it properly, there are chances that we might push that particular story to production actually, or to the particular release, in fact, right? So literally what happens is, there might be bugs that are coming in the production environment, which eventually decreases the pace of the next delivery, where we need to fix all these kind of issues actually, right? So literally, our traditional QA process, where we test everything at the last minute, decreases the quality and it decreases the pace of the delivery as well. And to add on top of it, it gives more pressure to our quality assurance people actually, right? So literally, we have to do everything at the last minute and we are not able to do it. Even though we have introduced a couple of test automation or whatever it is, it's going to give us more pressure at the last minute to do this particular, testing actually. So I think most of us know exactly what a traditional QA process is and what are the bottlenecks that we are having actually. This particular QAOps is going to help us out in probably I can just put it in a way that it's going to help us out in eradicating all these problems that we have as part of the traditional process actually, right? Now, what is this particular QAOps? Like I said earlier, QAOps is nothing but a combinational approach between QA team and operations team along with the developers to make sure the quality is more reliable and the product that we are delivering is much faster, is delivered faster as well actually. So literally, it's a collaborative approach between developers and operations along with the QA team. When I say operations, what do I mean actually? So say for example, it can be your, it can be your build team actually, where you just wanted to make sure that most of your test cases are integrated into the CI/CD pipelines using test automation. So we will talk a little bit about test automation and how we can achieve and what sort of test automation we need to do in upcoming slides. But for now, let's keep in mind that we are going to help the entire development team and operations team in delivering the delivering the product much faster actually, right? So this is the ultimate goal. We are going to work along with the developers and operations. Now, let's talk a little bit about the test automation part actually. Like I said earlier, in order to make things faster when it comes to QA, we need to adapt hyper automation or any other automation techniques that are available in the market or in the industry as of today. One thing what you have to do is you need to start thinking test automation. So your first approach from the QA perspective should always be test automation first approach actually. So that's the kind of a thing that you have to start thinking and then try to automate all your acceptance tests. In our term, in the sense like in the sprint, in the agile terms, I'm calling it as acceptance tests or acceptance criteria. But in your terms, it could be anything actually. So literally, we need to automate most of the acceptance tests which we are creating during the refinement or during the any other Three Amigos sessions or whatever you conduct actually. So literally, our first target should be automate the acceptance tests, right? So that is the main thing that we have to do. So literally, please keep in mind, it should be 70-30 all the time. So 70% of your testing should always be automated and 30% of your testing could be manual actually, right? See, let's be very honest. We cannot automate 100% actually, right? At least in my experience, I have seen that we cannot automate all 100% test cases. So always keep in mind 70-30 proportion is acceptable within the industry standards, but it's up to your organization and your test management team to decide what is the percentage that is accepted actually. Now, with these automated tests, it should not be in silo, in the sense like it should not be isolated at all. It should always be integrated with CI/CD pipeline, right? When I say CI/CD pipeline, I mean to say that it should be running more frequently actually. So when I say more frequently, it could be, it could be as part of your PR, it could be a part of your pull request, where you just try to create a pull request. Your tests that you have created are running against that particular build that has been created actually. So literally, it should be there as part of your PR approval process, where it just triggers when you raise a PR. When a developer raises a PR, all these tests should be executed against that particular branch. And only if all the tests are passing, it's always a best practice to approve that particular PR actually, right? Literally, please keep in mind, it could be of anything actually. It could be your sprint tests or it could be your smoke tests, but please keep in mind, it can be a regression test, but make sure that your regression tests are executing much faster actually. The reason why I'm so insisting about this particular part is currently probably like, in your application, there might be 20 to 30 regression test cases actually, be it whether it is UI or API or whatever it is actually. So eventually, when you start building up that particular, test automation, it's going to be 50, 60 test cases, which might take probably like, 1 hour to execute actually. So think about it. Whenever there is a PR that has been created, there is no point in wait. It might be a minor PR actually, probably a UI change. We don't have to run all the regression tests to make sure that everything is working. So for that, what you do is select a couple of smoke tests. We call it sanity tests, right? So select a couple of sanity tests and mark it against the PR to make sure that everything is working there actually, and it is not breaking any of the existing functionality. Talking about the sprint tests, it is mandatory to run all the sprint related tests against that particular PR, because this will give double assurance that none of the newly created features are breaking actually, right? So literally your sanity pack and your sprint test pack will combine within the PR approval status, and it says that everything is working actually, right? Now, if these two are working, then when are we supposed to run the regression actually? So we at Checkatrade, what we do is we run most of our regression test cases early in the morning or overnight actually, right? So literally probably like at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the evening, we are going to run it against the latest mean actually, right? So we are going to run probably 50, 60 test cases, which is taking probably like 1.5 hours to run it against different browsers, devices, etc. actually, right? So that particular regression test case is going to take so much time. So that's the reason why we have made it in an isolated, environment and in an isolated fashion where it executes overnight or early in the morning actually. Now, what is the benefit of it actually? Why should I run all regression tests every day, to make sure that everything is working? So literally, think about this one actually. There is a new feature that has been created, or there is a new story that has been pushed as part of the PR. Probably there may be 6 to 7 PRs within your team, right, on everyday basis actually. So literally, to make sure that your previous functionalities are working absolutely fine, you must run the regression tests overnight or early in the morning actually, to make sure everything is working. Now, if something is failing, say for example, like if a test is failing in Safari, right, Safari browser, that could be anything actually, right? That could be an automation script error, or it could be a product bug, or it can be a new requirements. It could be probably like you haven't added that requirement to your automation script, so on and so forth. There could be more reasons, right? So for that, what we do is, which I'm going to talk in a minute about, the 3 stages where reporting is one of the key entity. I'm just going to touch upon that as well, on how we can just make sure the reporting is done exactly in the way that we wanted. So literally, after the execution of the regression cases, the team can identify in the morning before they start their stand-up, saying that, okay, these are the failures that are there. This could be a product bug, this could be a regression bug, or this could be probably an automation bug, and they can just work on that particular day to fix those issues actually, literally to make sure that everything is working overnight itself, right? So this is something that you can adapt, and we found it very useful to make sure that the regression cases are helping us out in identifying a couple of product and automation bugs as well that we have seen for the past couple of weeks actually. Having said that, let's talk about the 3 stages of QAOps, guys. So basically speaking, the first stage is always testing. There is a place where we implement the entire testing process, and then reporting. Reporting is one of the main areas that we need to focus on, because reporting is the key element that's going to change the way that QAOps is functioning, because this is the place where it's going to help our leadership team to know where exactly we are, and what sort of errors that we are having, and what sort of problems that we are encountering as part of the testing or part of the product delivery, so that they will be aware of what exactly is happening actually. And the third one is auditing. Auditing in the sense, it's the QA auditing. It's not the auditing that is happening separately from developers or any other third-party ones. It's the QAs who will be doing the auditing actually. So these 3 are the stages that we need to start thinking about adapting as part of the QAOps actually. right? Now, let's get into every stage. Actually, there are 3 stages I said, right? We'll talk a little bit about each and every stage and see how we can just make sure that everything is working for us actually, right? Sorry. All right. Let's talk about testing actually, right? Like I said earlier, test automation first approach is the approach that we need to start thinking about, right? So we need to start thinking about automating our acceptance test. I'm emphasizing this part because in many organizations, what I have seen is they will just put the test automation in the backlog for that particular story. They just wanted to finish everything and they'll be doing the manual testing and they'll just put test automation in the backlog, which eventually creates a lot of regression issues later point of time during the delivery actually, right? So that's the reason when it comes to QAOps, test automation first approach is the best approach actually, right? And when you're trying to introduce a test automation, there are lots of techniques, guys, that we just wanted to make sure. So one key thing that I wanted to emphasize in this particular forum is parallel testing, actually, right? So try to run all your test cases in parallel, probably like using multi-threading, or you can just use any external third-party tools that are available, which is commercial as well as open sourced. And you can just make sure that everything is working in parallel so that you can reduce the time of test execution. And then you can just be more confident that it has executed across different devices and different operating systems as well. So parallel execution is one thing that we have to adapt as part of test automation actually. Second thing is, make sure your test cases are more autonomous actually. So when I say autonomous, make sure that most of the test cases what you're creating as part of test automation are literally your component level or system level testing actually. When I say system level testing, it could be anything. Say, for example, it could be your, one particular feature. So one particular feature can have probably 5 to 6 scenarios to be executed. So you can just add those kind of test cases within that particular feature. So basically, it is a feature testing, which eventually helps us out in deriving the feature coverage of what we have developed and tested as well, actually, right? Second thing, what we have to focus is the end-to-end testing, actually. So when it comes to end-to-end testing, we all know that most of the testing what we are doing are related to that particular system. It could be that particular feature or that particular system, right? But we need to start thinking about end-to-end testing as well. So this particular end-to-end testing definition could vary from organization to organization. So literally, it could be, it could mean like your, data flow between different systems, or it could be your entire workflow actually. So workflow in the sense like going through 1, 2, 3, 4 pages and make sure that the, at the end, the functionality is working. Or it could be like create something in one system, say for example, a mobile app. And you just have to go and check in your back office system whether that is reflecting or not. This could also be an end-to-end testing actually, but it's completely up to you guys to decide what end-to-end testing definition means here actually, right? Now, I'm sure that most of you guys will remember test automation pyramid, right? Where we have different levels of testing that we need to adapt to save more time and cost effective as well, right? So one such thing, what I always insist is to start thinking more shift left actually. When I say shift left, or I would say that try to focus more from the testing API perspective actually. API and contract testing, if you have contracts to be external. So try to focus on white box testing more, like unit testing, API testing, contract testing, which eventually runs more faster actually. So it gives the feedback much faster when compared to the UI level actually. But please keep in mind, you should have UI test cases. It's not like you should have only 1 or 2 UI test cases and more, API tests and contract testing actually, test cases actually. The reason why we wanted to have, UI test cases is to simulate the end user experience basically, right? That's where the concept of visual testing, that's where the concept of automated accessibility testing from NFT perspective, everything comes into picture actually, right? So please keep in mind, you need to focus more from the white box testing as well as from the UI testing as well to make sure that the user experience goes smoothly. Now, let's talk a little bit about non-functional testing actually, right? See, QA has evolved, right, over the years, in fact. So most of the testing, what we are doing as part of manual can be automated at this point of time. Say, for example, accessibility testing. Of course, we cannot automate 100% accessibility testing, but again, to some extent, we can just try to check the web UI, or you can just try to, check the, visual testing of visual contrast testing of the components that are there as part of the particular, screen, and so on and so forth. Of course, you can't use magnifiers, or you can't use, text to speech in an automated fashion. But again, please keep in mind, try to have these kind of, early accessibility testing concepts in your test automation, so that you can make sure that the accessibility issues are identified much earlier during the development process, and not to wait till the end as an isolated process. Actually, I know in many organizations still we have accessibility testing, performance testing, which is NFT, which is non-functional testing, in an isolated fashion. But gone those days, we have to start thinking about the concept of early performance testing, early accessibility testing, and early security testing, which can be integrated along with your build pipeline, actually, which you run on a regular basis from the regression testing perspective. So try to have all these NFT related testing artifacts within your build pipeline, or scheduled test runs, which eventually helps us out in identifying most of the issues in the shift left approach itself, actually. Now, blitz testing, actually, this is one of the key testing thing that I wanted to talk about, because we at Checkertrade have got very good benefit based out of this particular blitz testing concept. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this particular testing concept, but this is one of the key testing process that a QAOps emphasis, actually, right? What is this particular blitz testing, actually? So we all know that QAOps is a collaborative work between DevOps and operations, right? But this particular blitz testing is one step ahead. And what we need to do is, we all know UAT, right? User acceptance testing, where there will be a separate phase before the release, where we have that UAT, where we do lots of rigorous testing against that particular build or against that particular application, right? So literally, blitz testing is a concept in which it's a UAT testing, but again, in a glorified way. When I say glorified way, it's not restricted only to the engineering team, but also across the entire organization, actually. So this is a testing technique in which non-engineering folks, like your product team, in fact, your CTOs, CEOs, head of engineering, everyone will participate in that particular blitz testing event, and then try to hit that particular application or test that particular application to find more bugs, actually, right? So literally, it is a collaborative testing effort in which many people, many stakeholders sit together for probably 45 minutes to 1 hour and test their own testing strategies against that particular build, actually, or that particular application. So this is completely non-return. So there will be no predefined test cases for this particular testing. So we just get into the call, we just do lots of blitz testing, we just does lots of testing against that particular application. We put all our observations. This particular observation can be anything, actually. So it can be an idea, or it can be a bug, or it can be a simple note to the product team or the engineering team. It can be anything, actually. All we need to do is segregate it in a proper channel. And then what happens is, after the particular blitz testing session, the product owner or the product team and the engineering team folks will sit together and try to prioritize which one needs to be fixed first, actually. So literally, this kind of a blitz testing helped us out in identifying more observations or defects which we couldn't imagine, actually. So literally, it could help you out in identifying more than 50 test cases within 1 hour. Right, 1 hour of testing, actually. So, so literally, this is the power of blitz testing. So what we in Checkertrade have done this one is, we just use this particular blitz testing concept during every, before every release, identify the defects, prioritize it, fix it, and then push it to the production, actually. So this was very, very useful for us to identify many observations or issues that we have missed during the shift left approach over here. So this is one of the key concepts that helps QAOps to deliver the product much, in a qualitative way, actually. Now, Let's get in the second stage, which is the reporting actually. Perfect. All these things are done. The blitz testing is done. The regression testing is done. I have a wonderful automation testing. I have wonderful NFT testing that is there in an automated fashion. Everything is done. Okay. Perfect. Now, what is it we need to do next actually, right? So we need to start monitoring the test results over here. When I say monitor the test results, it is something like it's your duty in the sense like the entire QAOps, the entire team's responsibility to make sure that the test results are monitored. You remember a couple of minutes back, I was talking about the reporting stage, right? Where we will be having different types of bugs like automation bug, product bug, new requirement, and so on and so forth, right? So this is the place where we should always start thinking about monitoring it and then creating and create tickets accordingly to fix all those issues actually, right? Test observability is one of the key concepts that is evolving, and many commercial products have started doing this particular part. Not only commercial products, there are open source tools like reportportal.io, which eventually gives us a clear-cut idea about this particular test observability actually. So what is this particular test observability? So basically speaking, this is a place where this is the concept where we observe our tests and make sure that everything is working correctly, and then raise defects accordingly, and so on and so forth. So there are many tools that are AI based and that are partial AI based as well actually. So literally, you just have to teach these kind of tools to say that if this error comes, make it as product bug or automation bug or something, and teach that particular tool. So when the same error comes next time, probably after 15 days or 20 days or over 6 months time, it's going to tell us exactly what is the error, what was the fix that was given as well, and what was the ticket that was associated. So literally, it thinks exactly what exactly the particular error and gives us the information about that particular error actually. Right? So these kind of tools are evolving. It's just in the beginning stages. These kind of tools are evolving, and it could help us drastically to reduce the efforts that we are spending on analyzing the test cases actually. Right? It also gives us a very good insights about the test stability actually, right? When I say test stability, I'm talking about the test automation stability. There could be some places where we have lots of flakiness, right? So, of course, let's be very honest. We are automation engineers. We know what flakiness is all about. And when flakiness comes, that's where, we'll get more irritated. And that's where we just wanted to fix everything in place. Say, for example, weight. Right? There could be different weight strategies which we are using as part of our test automation, but unfortunately, most of the weighting systems or strategies might fail. So that's where the flakiness comes into picture actually. So we just have to start focusing on improving our automation script as well. So make sure that our test automation framework is more stable and has less flakiness actually, right? So that's something that we have to focus, because long run, all these things are from longer run perspective, because in long run, these are the concepts that are going to help us out in making sure that the product is more quality and delivers faster actually. I'm just using this phrase again and again because that's what QAOps emphasizes actually, right? Faster delivery and more quality. So that's where we just wanted to make sure that QAOps is functioning. Now, we use Cucumber at Checkatrade, and we strongly believe that living documentation is the Bible for our requirements. Actually, that's the place where everything is located. So we started using a couple of living documentations like Pickle documentation or Cucumber documentation to make sure all the requirements are captured in one place, so that we can use this particular living documentation during our blitz testing concept actually. In case if you want to give an insight about the application to non-engineering folks, you can just give it to them actually. They can just go through that particular living documentation as a manual, and then they can start testing it actually. So living documentation is one of the key essential stuff that we have to start using it actually, right? Third one, auditing, right? So this is the place I really love it actually, right? Now, sorry, just give me one, okay? Yeah, auditing, right? So auditing is one of the key activities that we from QA should always do it actually, right? It's our responsibility to do this particular QA auditing. What is this QA auditing, right? So this happens It's up to you. It's up to your team actually. But what we do is we do this every 3 months once actually, or probably 6 sprints once. So literally what we will be doing here is we might have in 6 sprints time, right? We might have probably like 50, 60 test scenarios, right? 50, 60 acceptance tests that we have created as part of the autonomous concept. Do you guys remember? We were talking about the make tests more autonomous, right? So it will be more autonomous at that particular time. And there might be some chances that we don't have to run all the test cases actually, not all 50 test cases. We might need to run only 30 test cases. We can eradicate 20 test cases or put ignore tag as part of those scenarios and run only 30 scenarios that are relevant at that particular stage. Let me give a small example for that. Let's take a login. Functionality actually. So literally what is happening here is, if you take a login functionality, we can test it against different permutations and combinations like invalid user, invalid password, invalid username and password, giving nothing, checking the error messages, and so on and so forth, right? For that particular instance of testing that particular login functionality, that is okay. For 1 or 2 sprints, it is okay to test it against. But think about after 6 sprints, you're going to have more and more functionalities added as part of, after logging in. So we all know that the login functionality will work eventually because we are logging in and then navigating through it, right? So those kind of test cases are not really required at that time. So we need to do these kind of audits. I'm just giving us a simple example, but it could be of anything in your scenario. But you can just put a proper, test automation audit and then check whether these test cases are required or not, and you can just eradicate them. When I say eradicate, please don't delete it. Please put it as @ignore, because in future, if there is a new functionality that is going to be added as part of a particular feature, these test cases can be useful for you actually. So make sure that you're not deleting it, but put @ignore cases actually as part of those test execution. Now, what does it mean actually? So if I do these kind of auditing, what does it mean for me? So it's going to save us a lot of execution time. Probably if you're going to run 50 test cases against 10 different devices, and it's going to take 1.5 hours, if you're reducing it to 25, it's going to reduce 50% of your execution time as well. So it's eventually help you out in having more resources to be saved. Say for example, if you're using a commercial product for executing your test cases against different browsers and different browsers and devices, and if you are in a package of per user or usage perspective, it's going to save you a lot of money by reducing the amount of execution that you're going to take. Actually, it's going to significantly drop your cost saving. Increases your cost saving as well. Actually, right? See, always keep in mind actually when it comes to test automation and while doing your audit, please keep in mind have less test cases or test scenarios and have more coverage actually, right? So this is the concept that we all have to think about when we are trying to implement test automation. Please keep in mind less tests and more coverage. This is the basic funda that we have to think about in order to make sure our test automation is more effective actually, right? Now, let's have a quick recap and I'll just open for question and answers. We just had, we just came to know what is QAOps, which is quality assurance operations, which is a collaborative work between developers, testers, and operations to make sure that the quality is up to the mark actually, right? And it also helped, we also saw how it's going to help us in contributing to the faster deliveries of our product so that it can help us out in achieving our product goal. And we also saw about, learned about 3 stages of QAOps, which is testing, of implementing different test automation strategies by adapting proper tools. And also we have seen how to implement non-functional testing as part of your build pipeline itself, what kind of NFT artifacts that you have to put. And we also saw about reporting in a sense, like we talked about test observability, we talked about test stability, and we also spoke about how reporting is going to help us out with test flakiness as well, actually, and how we can improve our automation framework, in fact. Third one, last but not the least, we just saw about the auditing. on how we have to perform audit against our test cases to make sure that we have less test cases and have more coverage for our test execution actually. So with these things, I'm happy to take any questions from you guys.
So welcome back, Giridhar. This is Hamza, your host for today's event. And again, I want to thank you for the informative session. I really enjoyed the recap at the end as well. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And
thank you so much.
As you can see, I just put the glasses to be able to see the questions that the participants asked. And I hope that you have that you still have the energy to answer these questions. We narrowed it to 3 questions, actually, and whenever you are ready, we are willing to start with the questions.
I'm ready always, Hamza. Yeah.
Okay. So the first question is, how can organizations strike a balance between end-to-end testing and shorter release cycles in QAOps environment without compromising security and quality?
Okay, could you please repeat the question once again?
Yeah, for sure. I can repeat it. So the question was, how can organizations strike a balance between end-to-end testing and shorter release cycles in QAOps environment to strike that balance without compromising security and quality?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Okay, I'll just consider this question as 2 parts actually. One is with regards to the end-to-end testing, right? So again, it depends on the definition of what exactly end-to-end testing means over here. So what I would suggest here is what I would personally think in order to make sure that the end-to-end testing is working fine. We focus again more from a regression testing perspective actually. So try to add more and more end-to-end testing to your regression testing phase because that's where you can make sure your entire end-to-end testing or end-to-end data flow between different systems are working fine actually, right? Don't stop here alone. Try to have some isolated testing like contract testing, because most of the organizations have moving towards contracts. Have all these contract testing done prior to your regression cases or your end-to-end test cases to make sure that the workflow works fine or the data exchange works fine prior to running your end-to-end test cases actually. This eventually gives you a surety that most of your test cases will work fine from the end-to-end testing perspective. Second one is all about, if I'm right, it's all about the security perspective, right? How can we not compromise security and this one? So literally speaking, if you remember in the slides, we were talking about early security testing, right? Most of the organizations will not prefer their own QA team or their engineering team to perform penetration testing or security testing actually, right? So literally they will go with a third-party vendor to make sure that everything is working from the security testing perspective, which I agree, and that is how it has to be done, because as a native people, right, as a native product development engineering team, we will not be able to test most of the security testing. We always need a third eye to make sure from the security perspective that everything is working fine. Now, how can we do it without compromising the quality? So literally speaking, have the culture of early security testing. So try to use all your SAST tools over there, right? So which is SAS, static application security testing. So if I'm right, SAST and DAST. So literally use tools like Veracode or SonarQube to make sure that most of your security violations are not done as part of your shift left approach itself from the coding perspective, and try to have ZAP kind of tools to make sure that your DAST functionalities are also working actually. So with these things, try to have it within yourself, which eventually gives double assurance that everything is working in your local environment, everything is working within your native environments, and then without compromising any quality from the functionality perspective as well as other non-functionality perspective, you can make sure that the security is also working actually. Hope I answered the question.
Okay, so thank you for answering that question, and I believe that's your invitation to move into the second question, which is, okay, The second question is, what advice would you give to organizations taking their first steps into QAOps in DevOps?
QAOps and DevOps, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. See, one thing what we need to realize is DevOps is different and QOps is different. QAOps is different actually. So literally speaking, what DevOps will be focusing is to make sure that the pipeline is working, all the CI/CD integrations are happening, and all those build and deployments are happening in place, and so on and so forth. That's what the DevOps team will do. QAOps, like I said earlier, it's a collaborative way work between DevOps and quality engineers to make sure that the product itself is built properly, actually, right? Built in a quality way. And then comes the DevOps of integrating it with CI/CD pipeline. So literally, those two are different concepts. But again, when it comes to the QAOps, if your organization wants to implement it, first and foremost thing what you have to think about is scope, actually. So check the scope whether you can automate few things, because when it comes to QAOps, like I said in the talk, automation first approach. That's the main thing that we have to start thinking, because without defining the automation approach, or without defining the automation scope, there is no point in adapting QAOps actually. But I'm very sure that in most of the organizations, test automation is a key entity, and it can be implemented. So define that particular scope and then try to think how you can collaborate it with the developers, because it's a huge process shifting actually. So involving developers to do testing is not an easy task actually. It's something that they have to start thinking from a full stack engineering perspective, and then they have to start doing these kind of testing work. So please keep in mind, you are supposed to think test automation first, define the scope, and then talk to your DevOps folks and see how you can integrate your developed QA test automation into your CI/CD pipeline actually. So maybe you can just take it as stages, scope, and then automate the test cases. Third one is to involve your developers to start testing. Fourth one is to just go and talk to CI/CD, the DevOps folks to see how you can integrate it with your CI/CD pipeline and help your pull request to happen more faster, actually.
Okay, thank you for that. And I really like the way you decipher it all into like one single linear process. So moving on to the third question. And if I'm reading it right, it's a more technical question, actually. It reads, what tools and resources do you recommend for beginners to get started with QAOps practices and automation?
Okay. There are many tools, right? There are many open source tools. I'm a hardcore open source enthusiast who work mostly with the open source tools, actually. If you are a beginner, what I would suggest is, like, depending on where you're working, it could be a web application or it could be an API backend team that you're working. Try to choose tools that are more, exciting for you. And one thing what I would tell is, try to choose tools that your developers, that the programming language your developers are using actually. Now, say for example, your front-end developers could use React, right? React TypeScript, React Native with TypeScript. So please don't choose, WebDriver IO or Selenium WebDriver with Java. Actually, don't do that, because when it comes to QAOps, it's a collaborative work, right? So there should be a common programming language between QA and developers, so that they both can talk in the same language, actually. So if the developer needs to add automated tests to that particular pack, he can add it. He don't have to learn Java, actually. He's just a TypeScript developer, right? He's a TypeScript developer. He don't have to learn Java to do this. So try to adapt a tool such a way that you're able to help the developers to do this particular task as well. Now, to suggest you, say for example, like if you're using React Native and TypeScript, I would suggest you WebDriver IO. If you're using Java-based application, I would suggest Selenium Java for you, actually. So likewise, you can just use these kind of tools. Whereas if you take CI/CD, I wouldn't suggest a beginner to start learning all these things at the first instance itself. But again, it could be differing, like GitHub, Bitbucket, or it can be GitLab, and so on and so forth, right? So you just have to learn about these tools as well, at least the basic, ways in which these tools are working actually. And last but not the least, try to start looking into commercial tools as well, because most of the commercial tools are evolving a lot and they are giving us lots of benefits when compared to open source tools. But again, it's up to you and your team to decide, because you have to look into the cost that you're going to spend for commercial tools, and so on and so forth. Actually, if you think you have to start thinking from cost perspective, try to adapt alternative tools that are available as part of open source. Or if your company is ready to pay for you, please go for commercial tools actually.
Okay, so thank you for that. Some valuable advices in here, and some tools that we can use, and some advices to bridge the gap in communication between testers and QA developers. I believe we are done with the questions in here. Actually, Giridhar, I want to ask you again for this informative session, deciphering the process of adapting and implementing a QAOps centric strategy to take our testing concepts to an upper level, etc. I want to thank you for taking a part in this session. We are looking forward to seeing you again in the future, and maybe collaborating in a similar initiative to share the latest insights, trends, updates on the testing real.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Hamza. And thanks to the entire team for giving me this opportunity, and well organized. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
Cheers. Bye.